Dreamcatchers, and welcome to the Writer's Haven. I am your host, Helena, and today I am excited to have in studio filmmaker Erik Kristopher Myers. I met Erik at the 6th Annual Annapolis Film Festival, where his film Butterfly Kisses premiered to rave reviews. I absolutely loved the film and had to have him on the show to talk to you about his process in making the film and any other projects that he has coming down the road. So, without further ado, please welcome my brother from another mother, Erik Kristopher Myers. Thank you for being on the Haven.
That's probably the nicest intro that I've ever received,
particularly
from a woman. Women usually run screaming the other direction.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, after that frightful film, you gotta wonder what's going on in the head of someone who could create something that absolutely fabulous, but at the same time scary as hell. So let's just jump right in. What was that film about? It was a film about a film about a film. That's the first thing that I got from it. So tell me how that concept came together.
Like all the best ideas, there wasn't any sort of strategic premeditation that went on. It came to me while I was taking a walk one day. I had made a film called Roulette that was released in 2013, and I was trying to think about what I wanted to do for my next project. And I saw a trailer for a found footage movie, like, you know, in the style of the Blair Witch Project or The Last Exorcism or Paranormal Activity. And I saw this commercial, and it just, like with all creative people, I start thinking about the nuts and bolts of the story, and my mind immediately went to that 5-minute window back in the late 90s when the Blair Witch Project was released, and people thought that it was a real documentary or it was real found footage of a supernatural event. And my wheels started turning, and I started thinking, you know, what would be the real life journey from someone discovering abandoned footage that showed the disappearance or death of the filmmakers in an alleged supernatural incident to it playing in a movie theater. And so I sat down, I wrote the script in about 7 days, and launched into it right afterward. So
Peeping Tom, where did that idea come from?
I'm a big fan of folklore and urban legends. I'm really into that stuff. And I knew that in order to tell this sort of story, I was going to need a real location, because the film is so very meta, as you were saying. It's, you know, it's a film about a film about a film, a documentary about a documentary about a documentary. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to fill the film with real people playing themselves, and to give it that verisimilitude that would catch people off guard, where they'd be watching it and thinking, how much of this is real? How much of this is scripted? How much of this, who's an actor? Who's a real person? And so part of that process was dreaming up a boogeyman that I could place in a real established location, and specifically a location that had a reputation for being haunted. And so this apparition that I created inhabits Ilchester Tunnel in Ellicott City, which is a real train tunnel that teenagers really think is haunted. By creating an urban legend and planting it there, my hope was that maybe that would take off and become its own thing.
So you took the folklore of Peeping Tom, which I had heard about Peeping Tom, but I really didn't know his story. So was the story about him true?
Completely invented.
Oh, okay.
Completely invented. It was just the location. And again, it's a train tunnel that teenagers think is really haunted, but there's no particular backstory to it. Just that spooky stuff happens there. And so I created an urban legend specific to that location, and put it in the film that is presented as being authentic, or at least a real story.
So the idea of not blinking was also part of what you created.
Yes.
As part of the storyline. And the Butterfly Kisses?
You know, the whole thing that I think is the engine of horror storytelling is trying to defeat or prevent that which is, you know, undefeatable, or, you know, it cannot be stopped. And I thought that playing with the idea of biological functions in the sense that we all have to blink our eyes, we all have to sleep, we all have to eat, we all have to use the bathroom. It would be fun to sort of incorporate a supernatural aspect of that. So in this case, Peeping Tom is this apparition that inhabits Ilchester Tunnel, and if you go to Ilchester Tunnel at exactly the stroke of midnight, and you can stand and stare down the length of the tunnel for 1 solid hour without blinking, he appears, and you can see him now, but the gag is that once you see him, you can't unsee him, and every time you blink, he gets 1 step closer, and 1 step closer, and 1 step closer, until he's right in your face. And as you're trying to do everything you can not to blink that last time, he reaches out with his long eyelashes. He butterfly kisses your face, and then you blink, and then he scares you to death.
Okay, okay. Now that part I wasn't sure about. That so he actually comes in and he kisses. That's the butterfly kiss to your face.
His eyelashes.
But then the people die. They have heart attack or something like that because they're scared out of their wits. As I was watching it. So let's talk about So let's talk about the process a little bit. So
Sure.
you came up with the idea. So from cradle to grave, it was how long of a process?
I came up with it at the end of 2014, I want to say in November, and I wrote it, like I said, in about a week. And then we began shooting. The film is essentially 3 films in one, so we had to shoot those in blocks. There are temporal differences, the 10 years or what have you between the various storylines. So we wanted to shoot during different seasons so that when we revisited the same locations, they looked very, very different. So you've got snowfall in one part of the storyline, you've got the height of summer in another. We filmed throughout the first half of 2015, and then it became this very long, arduous process of editing the film. You write the story 3 times. You write it on the page, and then you write it as you're shooting it, and then you write it a 3rd time as you're editing. And that was what happened. It was a 3-hour assembly, and we knew that we needed to get it down to a nice, tidy 90 minutes. And that was a battle for clarity. When you have that much information and the story is being told in a faux documentary sort of style, it's not like a narrative film where you're following a script where there are very specific beats. You're now trying to essentially create a real documentary in the sense that you're trying to shape a story out of a block of stone or what have you. And so it was a long process. It was about a year of editing and re-editing. We did test screenings with the assistance of the Frederick Film Office. We had people coming in not knowing what movie they were going to see, focus groups, comment cards, and getting feedback that was very, very valuable. And then we finally locked the film, and we've been screening it all this year so far.
Okay, you locked it when?
Last summer, August of 2017.
Okay. What were some of the challenges that came with that production?
Time and money. I mean, that's really the main thing when doing independent films. Even if you have a budget, it's not a studio-supported sort of project where you're just able to, get on a plane and fly out and someone's putting you up somewhere. Everybody had jobs. Everybody had, families. Some of us had kids. And so it's a lot of shooting on weekends, overnights, things of that sort. And the same thing with the editing process. And that includes sound design, that includes scoring, special effects, every component of the film. Just trying to find the time and trying to make it work for everybody.
Was there ever a point in that process where you thought, okay, this is just too much, I'm tired, I need a break, or I'm not gonna finish this, or I'm gonna think about doing another project? I
think we all have that moment. We all have that dark night of the soul, whatever our specific, art form is, whether it's filmmaking or writing or music or dance, whatever. We all have that moment where we just want to throw in the towel because, it's destroying my life. It's making it too difficult for me to, do the things I want to do, and it's consuming me. And it can destroy relationships. It absolutely can. It can
Just filmmaking in general.
Filmmaking or any art form. I mean, you know, to be an artist, you have to be obsessive compulsive to a certain degree. And you're seeing something that maybe the rest of the world doesn't see. That was a big point that I was trying to make in Butterfly Kisses, where the main character believes he has found this footage, this supernatural footage, and that it's going to make him a millionaire. And so he's trying to take it forth into the world, and everyone that's looking at it, every expert or anyone whose opinion matters or doesn't matter, doesn't know what the big deal is. They're looking at it going, this is just a fake cheesy horror movie. Even his own wife doesn't seem to buy into it. It ostracizes him from his child. And that was my comment on how our art can, in so many ways, you know, become our other lover.
Yeah, that was another message.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I didn't really have any specific moments where I said, I'm done, I'm never going to do this again. But I did have times where I needed to walk away from it a little bit.
Eduardo Sanchez, how did you get him connected to the project?
Well, as everybody knows, Ed Sanchez was the director, or the co-director of the Blair Witch Project, the film that started this whole genre. And you know, I enjoy the genre of found footage. It's very, very cool. I figured, though, if I was going to do it, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to put my own spin on it. And sort of make a film that was self-reflexive and that was, in some ways, commentary on the genre. And so my feeling was, if I was going to do that, if I was going to, you know, try to take this into a new direction, it would be cool if, you know, perhaps Ed would be willing to appear in the film as himself. I had met him several years prior. We were on a panel at MICA that was hosted by Studio Unknown, and it was all about sound design. And I was sort of the, you know, up-and-coming filmmaker that was there on the panel, and Ed was the established, you know, Maryland guy that everybody knew. And we were talking about our respective challenges, specifically in terms of sound. And we, you know, we hit it off, and we stayed in touch. And so when I was writing Butterfly Kisses, I, you know, took the film to him and I pitched it. And my idea was for him to, you know, appear as himself. And so many people that I asked to appear as themselves, you know, immediately became sort of, you know, nervous about that. But Ed was very, very cool. He didn't take a lot of convincing, and he totally got what I was willing to do, or what I was going to do. And he was generous with his time after that. He was looking at various cuts of the film as I was bringing it to him and getting his feedback. Very supportive.
Now, this is your passion. When did you know that this is what you wanted to do as a vocation?
Probably when I was in college. I was originally planning to be an English teacher. My feeling was that, you know, it would be a nice way to earn a paycheck. It would be a nice way to talk about stories, storytelling, and the creative element that I enjoy so much. And that, you know, I try to write books on the side. I try to write screenplays on the side. I, you know, hopefully sell something that would maybe open a door or two. And I realized I wasn't happy. And the reason for that was not that I had an issue with teaching, which, you know, I still do guest speaking at schools, and I really, really enjoy it. But specifically, I wasn't interested spending the rest of my life trying to tell people the importance of stories written by other people, not written by myself, to an audience that frankly doesn't care, that's there for a credit. I mean, that might not be true in total, but at least for the large majority of students, they're taking their classes to move on through to the next thing. I didn't want to do that. I figured I was just going to end up filled with regret. And so I made the jump, and I went to film school, and here I am.
Okay. Are there any filmmakers out there that you look at their work and not necessarily aspire to do it exactly like them, but they really inspire you in some way?
So many filmmakers I could just prattle off. I think a really good place, though, as a point of reference would be Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi. Whether or not you like The Lord of the Rings or Spider-Man or anything that they've done, what's important about those specific filmmakers is they came from the same place that I come from, the same place that many of my peers come from, and that is the sort of busted knuckle world of Scotch tape and popsicle sticks, trying to shoot movies in your backyard with your friends, and to transcend the limits of equipment, transcend the limits of experience, and bring a quirky and unique vision to an audience that probably hasn't seen anything like that before. And they managed to do that. They managed to gain a cult following that then allowed them to muscle their way into Hollywood and handle big budget blockbusters while still bringing that quirky independent sensibility. So,
Roulette.
Roulette.
Was that your first film?
That was my first feature, yes.
First feature, okay. Tell us about that experience. And how long ago? You said you did that in 2013?
It came out in 2013.
Okay.
It was several years of burning the candle at both ends. I mean, that was really where, I busted my knuckles. And I'd gone to school and, I realized that the degree in film was not going to guarantee me a job. I mean, it's if you have a fine arts degree, all it does is it demonstrates that you are understanding the tools that go in your toolkit. It doesn't mean that you're able to do anything with them that anyone is going to care about or pay money for. So you really need to have an entrepreneurial sort of spirit with that. And so what I really tried to take away from school was networking with my peers. And I figured, I'm a writer-director. I need to find someone who's a cinematographer, and I need to find somebody who's an editor. I need to find actors, and I need to find all of these various people and start working with them on school projects and then see where those relationships take us. And so when I graduated, I looked at a number of my former classmates and I said, hey, I mean, none of us are going to get on a plane and go out to LA right now. If we are, maybe we'll get a job getting somebody's coffee, and that's what goes on your resume. How about we get ourselves some resume credits doing a feature film? Let's make a feature film. Let's take what little money we have, let's pool our resources, all of our gear, and all of our combined talents, and try to make something that looks like it was made for $1 million. When in reality it's going to be 20,000 or whatever. Whether or not we succeeded is sort of up to the viewer to decide. But that was really what it was. It was truly Scotch tape and popsicle sticks. Building dollies out of PVC and plywood and doing whatever we could to try to make an impression so that hopefully when the film would play film festivals, which it did, and hopefully when it would win awards, which it did, and hopefully when it was released, which it was, there would be the opportunity to start knocking on some doors. And that was very much what I did. That's what made Butterfly Kisses happen. That's why I'm sitting here now.
It was at the Annapolis Film Festival?
Yes.
Okay, and it premiered there in 2014?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Roulette. No, Roulette did not play at the Annapolis Film Festival. It played at some smaller festivals. Some regional stuff. It played on the West Coast as well. But playing Annapolis with Butterfly Kisses was, that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
That was a really, really big deal.
Absolutely a big deal. And you think Roulette just kind of as your calling card?
It was a calling card, and that's very much how I treated it. But even if it's your calling card, it's not enough just to sort of drop it on the table and walk away. You sort of have to take, your card and shove it as many faces as you possibly can and say, look at this, pay attention. And that's what I did.
So you have your own production company?
Yes.
Okay, and the name is?
Four Fingered Films.
Four Fingered Films. And the partnering with other companies to make your film, the business side of filmmaking.
The part I hate.
I was just about to ask
terrible.
you.
It's nightmarish.
So what are some of the things about it that you would rather not do? You'd rather just focus on your creativity?
When you are an independent filmmaker, you have to wear many more hats than is probably, responsible to wear. But you have to, because somebody has to do all of these various jobs, and you can't hire them to do that. So, I mean, I write, I direct, I edit. In the case of Butterfly Kisses, I co-edited it with cinematographer Kenny Johnson. But you've got to produce, you've got to craft services, you've got to drive people to set, you got to turn off the lights, sweep the floor, and I don't mind doing that stuff. That stuff is totally a-okay with me. When you start talking about crunching numbers, when you start talking about clearing things for legal, when you start talking about that's my brain doesn't work that way. I'm a creative type, so I was very fortunate on Butterfly Kisses to have producers, Corey Okuchi and Stacey Jones Gensler and Carl Glorioso and everybody else I forgot to mention, who have a head for that. And they're just like, okay, you just get out of here and you go do the art stuff and you go do the interviews. We'll worry about that.
Now, in Butterfly Kisses, you actually appeared.
I do.
On it, and which for me, watching it, made it more real. Was that? How did you and why did you decide to appear in the film?
You know, part of the genesis of the idea, as I was taking my walk and thinking about found footage movies, was having just released my first feature. In addition to looking forward, I was really looking back as well. I was sort of thinking about the sum total of my experience and everything that had led me to this point in my life. And part of that was the film school experience, when you're, you know, the projects you're doing are the most important things in the whole wide world, and you're paired with uncooperative partners and you don't get along and you're ruining my vision, and this is going to play at the Student Film Festival, and then, you know, you watch it a year later and you're just, you know, hiding from your work. But there's that period, and you know, you're bright-eyed and you're looking forward. And then there was exactly where I was seeing a lot of other people land, which was, we're adults now. We have mortgages. We have children. We're married, and we have grown-up responsibilities. And what is filmmaking if not, you know, dressing up in costumes and playing with toy swords? You're running around and you're playing make-believe. And there comes that time when you start realizing you're right there at the threshold where you're not going to be able to reasonably do this anymore. Your time is passing you. And then there was exactly where I was, which was I'd released a film, and now what? Now what do I do? And that was really where the three stories in that film came from. And so in looking at all of that, I thought it would be interesting to represent those three sort of states of mind with three different sets of individuals, and it just made sense that I should be me as me, exactly where I was. I made Roulette, it came out, and now I'm making this movie called Butterfly Kisses. And oh God, it's falling apart, and I need to find a way to save the movie, because my name and my career is dependent upon it as well as everybody else's.
I thought when I saw you in the film, I thought that was such a great idea to do it, because as you said, it does kind of separate the three sections, if you will, of the film, and you know, the whole concept of the documentary and the documentary and the so you're documenting it with your team, and now you guys are in this place where you're trying to figure out what's going on with this guy, and so then the camera is on you as you're figuring that out, and it completely made sense. But I was just curious to know, at what point did you decide to turn the camera on yourself and show that part of?
Very early, very early. Like I said, I wrote it in 7 days, so I mean, it all kind of, you know, came flying at me. And for a moment, I was tempted to make myself the subject of the entire documentary.
The person that found the
yes, and that it would be entirely about me finding this, because I thought that would add to the verisimilitude. But then I realized, you know, look, I'm not an actor. I'm not pretending to be an actor. I would rather focus on someone else who can do the heavy lifting and do a fantastic job. By that same token, though, I did want to include myself to break that fourth wall. And it ended up becoming insurance in a way, because as I was going and asking people like Matt Lake, the author, or David Sterrett, the film scholar, or Eduardo Sanchez, or the paranormal investigators, everybody that I was asking to be in the movie as themselves, you know, again, the first thing that everyone is thinking is, how am I going to be portrayed?
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, I'm in it too. I'm in it as well. And I'm kind of playing a smarmy, opportunistic version of myself who's kind of willing to railroad this guy, you know, for the sake of my career. And I think that put some people at ease, and they realized that I was going to be in it.
So what's next?
The film is currently doing the festival circuit. It's going to be playing at the Maryland International Film Festival on Friday, April 27th. In fact, it's the opening feature. And then it's going to be playing at Sunscreen Film Festival the next day on the 28th. And then we got a bunch more screenings coming up, and we're negotiating distribution right now, so we're hoping for a Halloween release.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's awesome, Erik. And you have to keep me informed about where you are with all of this. And also your next, I know you probably have 2 or 3 other projects in your head that you're going to be working on soon.
Wheels are turning. Wheels are turning. I'm just very, very busy right now doing this fun stuff.
The promotion.
This is good stuff. This is the part where I can just sit back and relax a little.
Yes, and just kind of look at the success of what you've done, ride on that, and then look forward to what's coming down the road. So, Dreamcatchers, I know you enjoyed my chat with Erik, and you can connect with him on Facebook and Twitter to continue to follow his projects and filmmaker journey. Now join me next week for a 2-part series with author Odessa Rose and filmmaker Jamel Thomas. Odessa is the author of the book Water in a Broken Glass, and her book was optioned into a film that was produced and directed by Jamel. And we are going to talk about the process from cradle to grave from both perspectives, from the author writing it to the filmmaker producing it. So tune in, you don't want to miss that discussion. Also, don't forget you can catch us on our streaming channels, YouTube, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Sonos, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Alexa. So just go to our website at www.writershavenshow.com to get the deets on where to find us on those platforms, and then you can hear all of these interviews all over again. You can also hit us up on social media, Writers Haven Show and at author V. Helena. And until next time, catch fire on purpose.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education? What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills. The smarts.
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?